Open your mouth wide.
That's Ocean Bloom, a Radiohead and Hans Zimmer composition for BBC's Blue Planet 2 series. It's a lush, orchestral song that feels like the ebb and flow of the ocean. But it's a rework of a 2011 Radiohead track that sounds a lot different. When Radiohead's Tom York first wrote Bloom, he was inspired by the original Blue Planet series from 2001. The song turned out to be a complex mix of piano loops and syncopated drums. In 2017, the band was brought in to adapt that track for the Blue Planet sequel with composer Hans Zimmer. This time, they were faced with a unique challenge. How do you turn an experimental rock song into a soundtrack for the ocean? They found their inspiration in a painting technique in which small individual dots create a whole image.
Pointillism, painting pointillism, and started to talk about these ideas of getting all these...
I used to draw exactly that. And after going surfing, I would do exactly
that.
All
right, okay. So we were, obviously, there seems to be a consensus here that we were on the right track. And we came over here and we just started to do these gestures with the orchestra, these tiny little fragments of sound, just like sometimes it would be like light, sometimes it would just be like little waves or whatever. And they sort of became the vocabulary for this. I think that was part of the idea. Let's not just start with a tune, but let's just start with figuring out a new technique, a new method of how to present whatever the notes are.
If you listen closely to the track, you can hear that method at work. It's a trick they call the tidal orchestra. This sound forms the base layer of the entire soundtrack. It's always present. And it creates a whole musical environment that's built out of a single note. Hans has done that before. The Joker theme in The Dark Knight was just one stretched out cello note. But that was just one instrument. Here, you have an entire orchestra playing a single note. And that was made possible because of one simple rule.
We instructed the players to not play at the same time. When there was a long note, the conductor would say, when the guy next to you is playing, don't play.
You can hear this when you isolate the tidal orchestra track.
As your note dies away, just look at whoever's sitting next to you, let them swell in their note. And you get these beautiful sort of waves, and just for a moment, the individual player is heard and then sinks back into, the
Which is exactly what the form, if you stare at the ocean long enough, that's exactly what it does in terms of, back to the pointillism thing, it's basically, it's if you really look at it, it's triangles that come in and out, seep in and out all the time, and they don't stop. They never stop.
Think of it like a musical version of mathematician John Conway's Game of Life. There's a basic rule about when a note dies, when it remains, and when it reproduces. Let that play out, and the orchestra takes on an organic feeling. This track follows in a rich tradition of using randomness in music. As far back as the 1700s, compositional dice games were quite popular. Players would roll dice to generate a song based on pre-composed musical fragments, and then perform it. In 1953, composer Earl Brown wrote a piece called 25 Pages. It's an unnumbered set of pages of music that can be played in any order, with either side up, and with notes read as either treble or bass clef. Shortly after, Karlheinz Stockhausen wrote Klavierstück 11, where a performer can pick from 19 segments randomly. The song is over after they've played one fragment 3 times. And in 1964, composer Terry Riley wrote In C. It's a series of 53 short musical phrases that players can move through at their own pace, weaving in and out of sync. Music like this is called aleatoric. It's when a part of the composition or performance is left up to chance, or to a player's choices. The Ocean Bloom rework makes those choices available on an orchestral level, but it's an effect that was already part of the original Radiohead track. You can hear it when you take away the drums, which is exactly what Tom did at a performance in Paris in 2016.
I thought, hang on, maybe I can do it on piano. And came up with a really crude way to play it on the piano, which was kind of discovering the song again in a super simple way. Because up until that point, it had always been about the rhythms that shift in and out and fall apart. Sometimes come together if we're lucky.
Usually fall apart.
Usually fall apart.
It's very interesting hearing Tom talk about the piano version, because that had a similar sort of degree of randomness. And you were just building all those loops on the piano, and it's just, like you say, you see the song in a different way. And yeah, it's interesting how such a small scale thing that Tom was doing is sort of, you were subconsciously doing the same thing, but with a huge orchestra. As soon as you have an orchestra involved, the complexity of that, all these players playing together, I mean, that's a glorious thing. And there's no sound like it. And I think that's why it sounds so, vital.
Blue Planet 2 airs from October 29th on BBC One in the UK and is coming soon to BBC America in 2018.